just watch out. I've got a little adoration thing going here. Bill Graham, he was the first Rotary speaker I heard when I came back from El Norte 2 years ago. He was speaking at Rotary, and he was speaking about what he's going to be speaking about today. He spoke so eloquently about Jóvenes Adelante, then glowingly about Mujeres en Cambio, and then convincingly about the Biblioteca Scholarship Program. I went up to him afterward, declared him a messiah, said I'd want to be the tail on his kite, and I've been trying to do that ever since. That's all in comparison to the fact that I was the president of Jóvenes Adelante. Here I am supporting this guy's scholarship program. I still feel that way about him and his wife, Kathryn, who is his full colleague. Bill is a visionary thought leader. He has seamlessly navigated 3 dynamic careers in the public, the private, and the social sectors. He pioneered artificial intelligence. He owned an investment bank in Washington, D.C., and he spread the gospel of education to 6,000 industrial firms worldwide. He served LBJ himself. He worked with the U.S. Department of State. He worked in the Department of Education. He worked in the State Department. He became a White House Fellow and then became president of the White House Fellows. In addition, he led 4 foundations, all of which, before coming to San Miguel to do a few hundred things. Here he is today to share about the community that he has built in our community for the scholarship program at the Biblioteca. I hope you enjoy him as much as I do. Bill, you're up. Thank you so much.
Nobody should ever have to follow Robin. Thank you, Robin, from the heart. More importantly, thank you for performing exactly as you said you might and helping us at many points along the way. We appreciate it so much. We appreciate the invitation, Ron and Joe and Lee, the Rotary team, thank you all, and especially our Rotary donors who came about from our glad to see that he bridges both communities and does a superb job. He's an amazing, amazing person. Kathryn Graham, I will talk about some more, but there she is. And she is also, as you see there, secretary of the Biblioteca. That's a relatively new post. And so she hands off other duties to me. And not cooking, not anything that has to do with important matters. I survive at her sufferance. And Ruth Oliveira, Ruth back here, would you just stand, wave something so we all get to see her? She is very important. She's the new face, the scholarship coordinator. She is a dynamo. She does it all across the entire multicultural community. She's out with the students. She's finding the students. She's speaking on the radio. I can't say enough about Ruth. Well, it should be advancing. Okay. All right, we're going to deviate a little bit from the plan, and not materially. I'm going to add some context on the economy and education as it stands as a whole, and then apply it to Mexico. We're going to talk about other scholarships and selection and programming, some case studies, the gift of the year. But first, let's take a quick look at the bib for the few of you who may not know it well. Reading promotion. There are four pillars to the Biblioteca, and celebrating a 70th anniversary this year, so much has been done. There's an enormous book collection, four different reading and research rooms. Research and study goes on all the time. Literacy is part of the programming. It's digital. It'll soon be AI, adapting to changing times. And you'll see the library adapt. They get it, so they know where to go. Cultural events, you'll see that there's so much that goes on that the Santa Ana Theater is booked to capacity. You can't add anything more there. The courtyard in the short run, longer run, yes. The courtyard buzzes all the time, and this is the mecca for visitors. Who among us has not come here as part of our introduction to San Miguel? Then classes and workshops. They span the languages, arts, crafts, all ages, and the scholarship program, which we will talk about. You'll see the Biblioteca refresh and expand, and I think that's one of the exciting features of the 70th anniversary. Now, let me say a few words about the economy. I think you all know something about the amazing dynamic of the Mexican opportunity that's here. This is the subject of a seminar in itself. I can only give you a couple of highlights that illustrate the dynamism of this economy. U.S.'s largest offshore trading partner, just having surpassed China. Offshoring and supply chain linkages, those words I'm sure you've heard, have been the heart of the changes that are taking place. I can elaborate after the meeting if anybody wants to hear more of that. But look at the next number. In the first 5 months of this year, through May, 39 billion of new projects have been firmly announced. That's 54,000 new jobs. Think about it. 127 different announcements comprising that total. And that number is 3 billion more than all of 2023, which means it was 36 billion. So think of all this pumping into the Mexican economy, and you'll say, well, this third world country, as it used to be known back when I was a youngster, is today one of the most dynamic economies in the world. In fact, the IMF now says Mexico is the 12th largest world economy. You know who's number 11? Russia. How long is it going to be before we pass Russia? We have autos, we have Tesla, we have BYD, the giant electric motor company coming from China. It's going to have a plant here. We have distribution. Amazon and DHL made new announcements. In food, both OXXO and Coke are part of the new announcements. And imagine the amount of construction that goes with all of this. We all know how gifted the Mexican population is at construction. Imagine the new talents that must be added into the economy. And coming down the road are things that may or may not materialize, but we've seen the Mayan train, it is materialized. We've seen additions and new airports. We might get one ourselves, beware. It's obviously a pending idea. But there's also an inter-ocean corridor, which would be down at the Isthmus of Tehuantepec, and it would add a great deal to world trade if it is completed. It would be a train running across the country, paralleling the Panama Canal, which is at capacity and has a lot of issues. The Suez Canal is at capacity, has a lot of issues. So the opportunity really exists for a magnificent expansion of Mexican industry, and that would bring all kinds of businesses locating along that corridor. So keep watching. Mexico is ill prepared for all of this, but I do have to ask you to think about whether the education that's necessary to accomplish all this is in your agenda, if it's in your priorities. So this is a very most important slide I have to share with you. We all know certain benefits of education. We just live it, we know it, but seldom does one see a compendium of all of the ways that education impacts us. This is put together by the OECD, which is an organization of 38 of the largest industrial countries that came together after World War II for reconstruction and stuff. They do a lot of good economic studies. And this is hot off the press. This is 2023. It's a whole book. And out of this, you take away that educated people inarguably find jobs, remain employed, learn new skills, earn more, live longer, and enjoy healthier lives. What does that mean for society? Well, we get productivity, we get economic growth, we get innovation, we get more and better jobs, and we get increased equity or fairness in the marketplace. What does it mean for government? For government, very important effects: higher taxes, fewer social entitlements, you have to provide the same levels of care or welfare, you reduce poverty, you strengthen yourselves in a competitive economy sense, and that, of course, is what we're talking about. And finally, civic participation goes up. There's more likely to vote and volunteer. Folks in this room are experts on that subject. Now, I also found another research topic that I thought was pretty interesting. Here's how education and crime relate to each other, some US data I was able to uncover. 15 states in the US spend more on prisons than education. That's beginning with a negative. And the prisons report that lower education levels are represented by their prisoners. Not surprising if you think about it. And that if you have a high school education, there's much less likelihood that you will be incarcerated. And FBI says there's less violent and property crime with educated people. Finally, I found a study: 1 year of education is worth 11 to 12% reduction in the level of crime, high school on. So think about what we can do with education on these important topics. Just a brief word on the way we came to where we are. We were in North Carolina. We were very involved in lots of activities there. Kathryn's like I am. We ended up starting a foundation that did regional economic development future studies and which areas should we focus on. That was a tourism and retirement community just like this one. So we went through all the analytical processes that one has to go through to think about what your priorities should be. And a lot of what we did and said and participated in was focused on the university and education and vocational education and making the transition to a more widely diversified economy. And so we also traveled during that time, and we turned up an SMA and came to a Biblioteca seminar. And the COVID era was just beginning by the third time we came here. And by that time, we were convinced this was something we hadn't anticipated doing, but we loved SMA. You all have a story like this. I'll just cut to the bottom line. So when we got here, COVID had begun. What do you do with yourself? You hardly meet anybody. You can't do an awful lot. The restaurants were empty, so that was good. But we had a lot of time to analyze SMA the way we did back in North Carolina. And what were the greatest unmet needs in North Carolina? One looks at food and shelter and water, and we had great programs underway for all of those, which Rotary was involved in, along with so many others. So we said, well, gee, those are definitely the basic needs, but they are being impressively well addressed by very competent organizations. What about education? Well, we saw there were some good players in education with scholarships and stuff, but not enough cumulatively was being done. We now turn to Mexican education and look at this asset. In the state of Guanajuato, and for every 100 people, 40% are very young. Consider that in the context of what you've been reading recently about China having peaked. And remember when Japan peaked after it was going to take over the world? And why was it in both cases? Because population was an issue, the aging population. We're threatened with that too in the US, by the way, which is why immigration is a hell of a lot better thing than we acknowledge by and large. And a lot of new employment in the US is coming from education and immigration. So that issue is an amazing resource if we use it wisely. But the biggest problem is that we don't use it wisely. Here's primary school. Let's say that's 100% of Mexican kids attend primary school. 91% go on to secondary school. That takes you up at 7th, 8th, 9th grade and so forth. That's a 9% drop. That's something, but it's not so terrible. But look what happens here. I'm sorry. Something here backs me up. There we go. Thank you. All right. So let's look at high school. 91 down to 27 who complete high school. Many don't even attempt it. And then those who do, there's a quick drop-off rate down to 27. It's a terrible number, and that's our concern here. And only 16% then make it to university. So we don't care any less about university than we do about high school, but we got to get them through high school first. So if you're going to do 100 students, what are you going to do? You're going to try to start where the dropouts occur. In education, Mexico stops providing money to families for education. In the 8th grade, we stop in the 12th in the US. By our program is second of the 38 countries in the US. Mexico ranks 35th of 38. In other words, only Greece and Colombia put less money into education than does Mexico among leading countries. And we're lowest in college degrees of all 38 countries. So job to be done, you bet. 1/3 of the population remains in poverty at this late date. And I remind folks from our own experience how much we saved on our taxes when we came here. And now you know the reason why. Follow the money. The money says you have money in your pocket because the Mexican government is not investing in education. So folks, if I've made no other case, put education on your priority list. If you're interested in 5 things, let's make education one of those 5 things. If it's 2 or 3, keep education at the top of your agenda, please. New President Sheinbaum's talking about education, but let's look at who's actually helping with education in San Miguel. I'm sorry. So we're helping at the Biblioteca, but we're not the only ones. Let me quickly deal with 2 of the ones listed. Benito Juarez is a national program, and Foundation BBVA is also a national program. Some of their scholarships are notably coming to San Miguel, but they have no special presence here. This is not their emphasis area. It's great that they do what they do. If you think about the US, we've got literally thousands of organizations that provide scholarships. Here, not so much, but here are 2 important ones on the national agenda. Also, one more that I will dispense with rather quickly, only because, well, it's politics. Municipal government this past June 23rd provided $800 type scholarships to 350 top ranking students in all of the schools all schools in the metropolitan area. Will they do it again this month? We don't know. But we're not saying they won't, we just don't know. And will there be continuity of the program? Is it politically independent and reliable? We don't know. Would it be such a bad thing if somebody got that in our scholarship as well? Absolutely not. I don't know about some of you, but I'll bet there are many high achievers academically and otherwise in this room who had multiple scholarships to get through college. I did, and I felt lucky that I was able to cobble enough together to make it, even with help with my family and my own. So that's what you think about when you think about those things. Now let me come to some real players. You heard from Don Krim in April from Jovenes Adelante. And I've always said about that program, besides Robin's early leadership, is that it's such a rich program for a lucky bunch of kids that if they didn't have a damned age cap, I would apply myself. I'd like to spend a few years in that program. So it's 5 years, 4 to 5 years. It's a cradle to grave type care. They have a really rich staff providing all kinds of counseling and psychological intervention where it's called for, mentors and full-time staff support. So it's a rich program. It has an inevitably high overhead, and it costs a lot of money to play in that league. And if you have unlimited funds, put some in Jovenes Adelante and put some in Biblioteca. In Jovenes, you'll try to pick the one star out of the bunch and follow that star. In the Biblioteca, you'll see 100 names, and you can finance perhaps 4 for the price of one person in Jovenes Adelante. So there's good reason to look at both and decide where you want to make your investment with high merits in both cases. Now, you may not be as familiar with Mujeres in Cambio, but it's also a high performance type program. They have an equal number of scholars. These two each are handling about 130 to 140 a year. We're 100, so they're bigger. We've been around 20 years. They've been around 20 years or more. They've been independent. We have been dependent on the contributions to the Biblioteca in general. Now we are dependent on those that we can round up from individuals, and that's a much better way to do things. But Mujeres en Cambio is rural. It's girls only. It provides some social services as well. They hit the same socioeconomic level as we do. And we're all kind of trying to play that lowest economic denominator because they are people who need the change the most. Now let's focus in on the program at the Biblioteca. And here you see that we have geography as an important characteristic, high academic achievement. Now listen to this. We allow 8.5 and above. Jovenes sets theirs at 9. What happens to our students? Our students are averaging 9.3, not 8.5. And the social economic structure is an inverted pyramid. The poorer you are, the less likelihood that you had a family that had education, the less likelihood that you'd ever broken out of this environment that you're in, the better it scores you on our admission form. So first generation, yes. Socioeconomic, lowest. Academic level, stars. Sustainability of their academic program. That means they have an idea and they want to follow through and go somewhere, make something of themselves. We have to see some motivation there. And so this year, we are retaining an amazing 97% of our 100 scholars in the program. 97% stay with us year after year, right? Once you get into the Biblioteca program, you don't want to get out. you got a good deal going because you're going to learn, you're going to get support from this vast organization, mostly volunteer, and at the end of the day, the money helps too. We do this on 25 bucks a month for high school, 25 bucks a month, 300 bucks for a year if you want to pay it all together, and 50 a month for university. And I'll come back to this at the end, but I think those numbers are pretty amazing. I won't stop here for very long because we're running short on time, as I knew we would. But you can see what happens between November, September, the announcement, the bringing in of new students in March. They have a program of admission, and that's something all of us who contribute scholarships like to come to and enjoy. Where do they come from? Look at that. They're scattered all over SMA communities and all the urban area, and also in the Common Fort area. And under Ruth and in the new direction of the Biblioteca, there are many foundation activities that are conducted. Each month there's something to help them think about and plan their careers, including personal finance. Our kids all get bank accounts set up. Money is transferred to their bank accounts. Learn how to be responsible with your money, or you're not going anywhere in this world. That's good. School promotion campaigns, new radio program. Ruth is involved with these things, and she's pretty much a one-man band in terms of full-time activity on this, but she is supported by the entire Biblioteca. You saw the staff there, but there are 20 or so people, and they all get involved when it comes to finding the best students, interviewing, and final selection. So you do have a big team behind Ruth and her efforts, and some very talented people. So just a quick profile on a couple of the kids. Here's a couple, Luz and Luis, and you can see the one came out of a rural community and is now an agronomy engineer, the other one out of a more urban environment from a single mom. And he's now involved in tourist management. He'd impress the heck out of you if he took you on a tour. He's a guy with a bright future, I would venture to say. So when we talk about real people, there they are. You should know that 70% of our scholarship recipients are women. Hooray for women. And that's because women are doing it today. I don't think I need to explain that to people. They are the applicants, they are the high performers, and God bless them, they get the scholarships. That's their choice. Sorry. So here's a couple more examples. We don't have time to dwell, but you see a doctor there and a doctor there. This year we started a medical program as a separate undertaking. We'll do 4 medical scholarships this year, and they're going to provide $100 a month instead of the 25 or the 50 to get people who have to go to school remotely to connect back to San Miguel, eventually become part of the enriching our medical society in San Miguel to all of our benefits, and several others who have been high achievers I won't dwell on. Now, Graciela, do we have her video for a quick minute or so? She's the primary historian of San Miguel.
I think there's time for a few questions. So who has questions for Bill? You covered it, Bill. You've covered it all. You've dumbstruck them.
Well,
Yes,
you did
Michael.
so much for us at Rotary. If we have another minute, I just want to say thank you for 2 years ago. We need your continuing support. We built over the last 2 years a circle of supporters that is now up to 79. It grew from your initial nearly 10 scholarships that came in as a result of Rotary and presentation 2 years ago. And this was feasible. It got us started towards the 100. And then we made friends and friends out of those circles and expanding, and there's no secret to it. It just grew. And now we have the Scholars Club. And you have information here that will give you an idea. The Scholars Club is everybody who's ever made a donation, and there are now 79. And we are going to be doing 4 events this year. We've done one already. We got at least 3 more on the agenda. They are social, they're somewhat informative, but mostly they expand the circle of people who have the same passion and understand each other because they understand they share that passion. And it makes great friendships. It overcomes loneliness for those of us who didn't have friends during COVID and so forth, and it's a great start into the community. Joe?
Bill,
Yes.
you missed one thing. How do new people join, and what does it cost?
Oh, shucks. Well, I did
Please.
mention the 25 or 50. Each of you has, or at least a good sprinkling of these little cards. All you have to do is follow that URL that's on there the way you would if you went to a good restaurant, and it'll get you there. We also have our cards, which we will give you anytime you want at this meeting, please. And furthermore, you have the advantage of in-person advice from Kathryn, myself, Kathryn as Secretary of the Biblioteca, leader on this program from day one, now quietly recessive, and she's the real power. She's a professor of philosophy. She has a background that is quite diverse, but she's been very central to making this all happen. So you see Kathryn, you see Bill, and it happens. Thank you.
I have another question for you, Bill.
Yes.
That drop between secundaria and preparatoria that showed in your slide, what is it, the kind of support that those kiddos need that are the high school scholarship program? What is it that you're providing to them?
Okay, that's a good question, and it was implicit in the discussion of the Rotary, excuse me, I say that often. Biblioteca resources. We have library cards that are a part of the admission into the program. So this is a safe place to study. It's a great place to research. It has language programs, of course, supplementary arts programs. We have those other training programs that were mentioned. And we have a certain number of mentors for people who seem to actually need mentoring. And more can be arranged by talking to Ruth and finding out what the student needs are.
Great, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, yes. The money is dispersed twice a year. The total disbursement, if you think about it, you put in 25 a month for a high school student. That's 300 cumulatively. They'll get 150. It works out to 5,000 pesos. And all the money goes into the scholarship program. It does not go for Biblioteca overhead. That's why they spun it out the way they have done, so that we could have a dedicated resource.
Hi.
Hi, Ron.
I just want to talk about an event that happened last year. On my wife's 17th birthday. Oh, I meant her 17th year with me, her birthday. Anyway. Anyway, she's not that young, right? Anyway, somebody anonymously at her birthday party gave her a 1-year scholarship to high school. So she got a certificate from your organization with her name. Yeah, there you go, one of them. And it said Marie Rose Walters on there. So somebody gave my wife that gift, a 1-year scholarship, and my wife said, and she'll tell you to this day, it's the best gift she ever got in her life, besides me.
We couldn't recommend those scholarship gifts more highly than we
Yeah.
do. Thank you.
And similar
I think I'm being.
well,
Thank you, Joe.
I wanna get you one of our mugs. Yeah, no, got more time for questions. Absolutely.
So similar to Ron Walter's story, 2 years ago at Christmas, I gave my nieces who live in Atlanta, Georgia, gifts. And again, they're framed certificates that the Biblioteca provides through the Scholars Program. And I gave them, they were 17 and 20 years old at the time for Christmas, one of their gifts from their Aunt Andrea, in their name, in their honor, scholarships to high school and college students here in San Miguel. And I didn't know if at 18 or 17 and 20 years old it would mean anything to them, but they teared up. It was very, very meaningful. So I highly recommend that if you're going to, and I hope you all will, consider joining us in the Scholars Club to sponsor a high school and or university students and put it in someone's name. It may be your housekeeper, your gardener's name, but it can be in memory or in honor of someone, and it's very, very meaningful.
other questions, comments, amazement, confusion? It's yours. Go.
Bill, thank you very much for being here today.
What a pleasure.
I'd like to gift you with one of our fancy mugs that you can
Catherine, come
drink
get
your
this
coffee
one.
with. Oh, I'm going to give Kathryn one as well.
Oh, okay.
No, you guys are going to fight over it
Yeah, yeah.
otherwise, and
It's not-
you're not winning any battles as it is. So I
You
better
can
give you 2 mugs.
You can see I was up lose the fat.
But it was great to have you here today to talk about this. And I also wanted to thank, and it's Ruth. My apologies, I called you Ruby a couple of times today. I want to say Ruth, and thank you for all the effort and work that you've been putting in as well. Great to have you
Thank
here
you.
today, Beth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.